continue our lecture for our Unit 1 notes, and I know that recorded lectures are not always the most fun to have to listen to, but I wanted to get this information to you folks and not throw you off track while I'm away and out of town. Please be nice to my sub, Mrs. Ferguson. She is awesome. So let's go ahead and jump back in. You're going to want to take notes for these slides. This information will be on the test next week, and so I want to make sure that you know. Beyond that, many of you are budding entrepreneurs. You may have had a lemonade stand. I know this summer I stopped by a couple of kids who had some lemonade stands just to kind of give them some encouragement because, you know, they are coming up with a need. When we had hot weather, it was nice to just be able to get some cookies and some lemonade and see how they were doing. So what's an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is a person who launches and runs their own business. Now, a lot of people decide they're going to open a business without doing their due diligence, you know, researching their market, finding out if there really is a market for their product. You might like it, your friends might like it, but that might not be large enough for your business to take off. And so I always caution individuals not trying to squelch your dream or anything like that, but really think about what you are doing before you do it and risking your money and a bunch of other people's money. But entrepreneurs are typically folks who they have to do the management tasks of all of the other levels of management. They are it. They're the whole enchilada. At first, when they're getting started, they're their own grandpa, as it were. Now, as their companies grow, they sometimes hire professional managers. And most large companies, including Microsoft, Lands' End, Amazon.com, Estee Lauder, Kellogg, the host goes on, were started by, you know, one or two people who had an idea and they thought, hey, this would be really cool. Funny story, Mrs. Fields Cookies. 25 years ago, when I was in college, I had a math teacher, calculus teacher actually, and she gave out the recipe for Mrs. Fields Cookies. She did that because as Mrs. Fields Cookies was getting started, they had small little stores on the East Coast, and my teacher, my instructor, was visiting one of these stores, and she said, my goodness, these cookies are really good. Can I get the recipe? And they said, sure. And she said, well, do you guys charge for that? And they said, well, $2.50. And she said, okay. Well, she was buying a bunch of presents to take back to the West Coast because she was from the East Coast, and she was an interesting person. Apparently, she didn't pay attention to her receipt, because when she got home and, you know, in the course of time she got her bill, there was a charge from Mrs. Fields Cookies for $250, not $2.50. That decimal does make a big difference. And so from then on out, she gave out that recipe to all of her students. Anyway, just kind of a funny story. Pay attention to your bills, especially if you're an entrepreneur. It's riskier than being a professional manager because obviously you're risking your own blood, sweat, and tears, your idea. You're putting it out there. You're saying, hey, I'm going to put all the swag together, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. But again, if you don't have a market for your product, if you aren't adequately advertising your product and promoting that product and constantly being on the lookout for threats in your business environment, you will go out of business. And in fact, most new businesses fail within 18 months. Entrepreneurs and professional managers often have different personality characteristics. We're going to talk about some characteristics of being an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are typically more independent than managers. Managers are going to look to carry forth whatever the mission of the company is. Entrepreneurs are kind of figuring out what their mission is. They're flying by the seat of their pants. Oftentimes, these are folks who have a lot less formal education than a professional manager. Entrepreneurs typically are high school graduates. They might have some college. They get an idea, and that idea burns in their head, and they continue on with it. Now, Ben and Jerry's, different story altogether. Those folks went to university, and they learned how to make ice cream from this ice creamery university over in Philadelphia. And they had a business model, and they went with that. They wanted to support local farmers and only have the highest quality ingredients, and they have some pretty good ice cream. They did sell out their business. They did sell that, I believe, to Nabisco. I'd have to double check. But then they were asked to come back because it wasn't working out. And so much like what we saw with Steve Jobs before he died, when he was asked to return to Apple, and he is the reason why we have iPods and the iPad and all of those types of things. Those were his brainchilds, or brainchildren, I guess. Anyway, entrepreneurs also tend to jump from job to job. Some people say they may have, maybe some issues with authority. That may be true, but mostly because they believe in their own idea and their way of doing things, and the structure of a corporation oftentimes is not for them. They start with an idea, creating a product that they find to be the thing that they believe in. Jones Soda is another case in point. The person, Peter von Valkenburg, who started Jones Soda, started it because he liked high-quality sodas. He didn't care, and he would say that in his presentations. He would say, "I don't care. We know Coke and Pepsi are, these big behemoths, and they're fighting it out or whatever. We're a niche market." They started out delivering their sodas to tattoo parlors. Who would have thought that they would have expanded to the point where they did? I mean, up until 2008, I believe, or 9, they were in the Seahawks Stadium in Quest Field, which is now CenturyLink Field. But he clashed with his management team once they became a publicly traded company. He had to listen to his shareholders, and he just wasn't into that. And so he ultimately left that company, and it's kind of foundering a little bit. That might be a company that you are looking at. But these folks make the decisions. They love making the decisions. They love being their own bosses. They love getting that satisfaction. And of course, if they're successful, the rewards and financial success can be great. If they aren't, then obviously they've lost their shirt. But some people, let's see, I would believe Donald Trump has gone bankrupt at least 2 or 3 times. And they are risk takers. They are the folks who love to gamble. And if you're not a risk taker, entrepreneurship may or may not be for you. You might want to rethink your plan, maybe kind of play it safe, but you could still do it. They also work long hours, and they have to make decisions about every aspect of their business. So that means they have to be willing to research things. If they don't know, they've got to find out. They can't just guess. And going with your gut instinct is one thing, and that's a fine way to live your life for smaller decision making. And if we will get to a unit on decision making and how we make rational decisions. But these folks have to find out the information. They cannot be willing to risk everything all the time on some slim gut feeling. So again, they take those huge risks. But without entrepreneurs, we wouldn't have new businesses or exciting developments or innovations in businesses. And so entrepreneurs, you're going to definitely want to get these notes down. They can be a sole proprietorship, or like Mrs. Fields when she started out, or a partnership like Ben and Jerry's, or they can become a corporation, and they have stockholders that own the company, and the managers don't own the company, and that way they are not personally liable for financial losses. Or they can have a franchise. Another way for individuals to build wealth, particularly minority individuals, have been to buy franchises from McDonald's or what have you, because everything is set up. They've got that instant name recognition. All they need to do is just launch that franchise. and they get the support and the training from the major corporation, but then they reap the profits after they've paid back their loans. And trust me, it's quite a lot of money to have a franchise. I remember when I first moved here to Washington State, there was no Carl's Jr. Oh my God, it was horrible because Carl's Jr. was where I would eat as a teenager. And there is a Carl's Jr. now in Marysville, and the only other one was over in Spokane, and they've gone downhill, so I don't eat there anymore. But I called to find out how much it would cost to open a franchise. It was going to cost $250,000, which was a lot of money for me. I was pretty young at the time, and so I kind of backed off of that one. But I saw a need here. I knew that Washingtonians deserved to have Carl's Jr. I know we have Dick's, but Carl's Jr. was the bomb when I was growing up. Okay. Entrepreneurs in large and medium-sized businesses. Sometimes large or medium-sized businesses will encourage their managers to act as if they're entrepreneurs, to develop products. 3M did this. Post-it notes, we use them. They're ubiquitous now. But when a long time ago, people were taping little pieces of paper to their, well, not their computers, sorry, to their desks to remind themselves or whatever. And this 3M manager, he thought, hey, why don't we come up with a gummy back so that the notes will stick? Hey, awesome. This term is known as entrepreneurship. That will also be on your test. So make sure you know the difference between entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is entrepreneurship within an already given company, a structure of a company. Okay? Awesome. We're going to stop here at the importance of small businesses, and then I'm going to have you continue to work on your activity that Mrs. Ferguson is going to hand out to you. But as you go on in this class, one of the websites that we're going to go to is the Small Business Administration. You might want to take a look at that while you have a few moments. The DBA and all of those things, business plan, things like that are samples are on the Small Business Administration. Those folks are there to give you some guidance. They are a federal government agency. Within the state of Washington, we have some other rules that you have to follow, and we'll look at the access.wa.gov website later to show you what articles of incorporation might look like, what a DBA is, all of those types of things. But go ahead and we're going to stop the presentation now because, as I told you, I try very hard not to lecture more than 15 minutes, and we're almost at that mark right now. So go ahead and begin working on your assignment.